Hey, what is up guys, and welcome to my Abyssal Sire guide. The Abyssal Sire is a level 350 Abyssal Demon boss that can only be killed while on a Slayer task of either Abyssal Demons or the Abyssal Sire itself. In order to kill the Abyssal Sire, you need to have a Slayer level of 85, and I would highly recommend having 90 plus in your melee stats and 92 plus magic for Blood Barrage. The Sire's rare drops are actually a bit unique in the fact that it doesn't drop an item itself. Instead, it drops an unsired, and this unsired can be handed in, and it can give you either an Abyssal Head, an Abyssal Dagger, an Abyssal Whip, an Abyssal Sire Pet, a Bludgeon Piece, or a Jar of Miasma. The Sire is a relatively complex boss, being as the kill consists of 3 different phases, and I'll cover these in just a little bit. Alright, so first and foremost, let's go ahead and go over how you get to the Abyssal Sire. You can access the Sire's dungeon by entering the southern entrance in the abyss in the wilderness itself, which I highly advise against. It's really unnecessary. But the best way to get there is to simply use the fairy code DIP. Once you arrive there, you can go many directions. The Abyssal Sire is unique in the fact that there are 4 different rooms located within the dungeon. They did this so it wouldn't get overcrowded, so you can take any one of the paths and it will lead you to an Abyssal Sire. Now let's go ahead and talk about the 3 different phases you will encounter during the boss fight. During the first phase, the Sire itself will not attack you. Instead, it will spawn monsters that will turn into Scions, which can damage you a lot. During the first phase, you will need to stun the Abyssal Sire by either doing a lot of damage to it, or the simple way is by using shadow spells on it. When he's put to sleep, all the tentacles in the room that can hit you will also go to sleep. And once the tentacles are asleep, it will give you access to the respiratory systems, which you kill with magic. Because the Sire isn't attacking you, the Scions use a range attack, so you're going to want to have Protect from Range on during the first phase. Once the respiratory systems are all dead, the second phase will begin. During the second phase, the Abyssal Sire will come off of his quote-unquote throne, and he will start attacking you with melee, so you are going to need to protect melee during this phase. You attack the Sire with melee as he is weak to stab, so you're going to want to use, well, we'll get into the weapons later, but he is weak to stab. And once the Sire reaches 50% of his health, he will begin moving to the south, and this marks the start of Phase 3. During Phase 3, the Abyssal Sire will move to the middle of the room, as I said, and will not actually attack you. Instead, he will begin spawning more spawns, which of course turn to Scions. So you want to use Protect from Range against these, and while the spawns attack you, the Sire will begin charging. It looks like a bomb attack, essentially. When the attack is fully charged, he will teleport you next to him. Now, this is like a key sign. As soon as you get teleported next to him, you know he's going to explode. So in order to avoid this, you have to run away from him. I think you run directly to the south, and you will not take any damage whatsoever. After the Sire explodes, Scions will constantly spawn out of him, and there's actually a way you can use these Scions to your advantage, which I will show you during the kill itself. But this is the third and final phase. Once he blows up, you just finish him off, and the kill will be completed. Okay, before I talk about the gear setup, I want to touch on a couple of mechanics. First of all, the Abyssal Sire, when they spawn monsters, they are called spawns. Now, these spawns do little damage whatsoever, but if you leave them alone for too long, they will morph into Scions, which do a ton of damage. So if there are a large amount of spawns, especially during the first phase, you can easily take them out, and this will prevent you from taking a lot of damage, because they won't turn into Scions. Another important mechanic of the Abyssal Sire is the pools of poisonous fumes. Now, throughout the entire fight, the Sire will spawn these, and they are incredibly annoying, but once you get used to them, they are very easy to dodge. He's going to spawn these pools right next to your feet, and they do rapid damage if you stand on top of them or one square next to them. Now, if you're standing on a square next to them, they don't deal as much damage, but they will still hurt you a lot. So, when you see these pools on the ground appear, all you need to do is run at least 2 squares away from them, and you will be safe. And the last mechanic I want to talk about is the tentacles located within the dungeon. Now, there are 4 tentacles located within the room, and if you go too close to them, they will do you massive damage. So, if they are not asleep during the first phase, you need to do everything to try and avoid them. Now, there is basically a safe area within the middle of the dungeon, and I'm going to try and highlight this in green on the map. As long as you stay within this little area, the tentacles can't hit you, and you'll get a really good sense for this once you start killing the boss, but these need to be avoided at all costs. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about your gear setup. What I have on right now is a pretty expensive gear setup, so I will try and offer some alternatives as I go. But Abyssal Sire is a pretty difficult boss, so the better gear, the better off you're going to be. So, starting off with the helmet, we have a Slayer helmet imbued. You're going to want to have this imbued because if you don't, you won't get the bonus to magic as well. So, of course, on a Slayer task, you want a Slayer helmet imbued. Occult necklace, Aram's top and bottom. Primordial boots. Now, dragon boots work just fine, but of course these are better if you can afford them. Barrow's gloves, a trident of the swamp. A trident of the seas would also work, but at this point in the game, magic fangs are so cheap, I don't know why you wouldn't use this. For a cape, I have the Ardoon Cloak 3 on. Now, of course, an Ardoon Cloak 4 is better, but I just don't have it. The reason why you want to use an Ardoon Cloak over a fire cape is because Ardoon Cloak is just really useful overall in the sense that when you melee, you use stab, which this has a stab bonus. When you use magic, this also has a magic bonus, and it also gives you prayer bonus. So it helps you in your prayer, it helps you in magic, and with melee. So overall, you're going to want to use an Ardoon Cloak over a fire cape. Onto the shield now. I have an Arcane Spirit Shield, which is the best shield for Sire, but I realize it is very expensive, so if you don't have an Arcane Spirit Shield, you could use a Malediction Ward, you could use a Blessed Spirit Shield, something like that. But yeah, Arcane's the best way to go. It is really expensive, though. And lastly, for the ring, I have a Berserker Ring imbued. Now, you could also use a... Is it a Treasonous Ring? Yes, from Venenatus. The Treasonous Ring imbued gives really big stab bonus. But being as you already have ridiculous stab bonus from your Hasta, your Defender, etc., I think you're better off with a Berserker Ring. And now onto your inventory, you have your melee switch in Bando's Tassets, Bando's Chestplate, a Zamorakian Hasta, a Dragon Defender, and an Amulet of Fury. Now, not everybody brings an Occult Necklace, so you could just wear this to begin with and save yourself an inventory space, but I think it's worth the switch. Next onto the spec weapon, there's a lot of really good spec weapons for the Sire. I personally use a Saradomin Godsword. You could also use a BGS, a Crystal Halberd. I would recommend either using a BGS or an SGS. An SGS is going to heal you more, so if you're just starting the Abyssal Sire, I think this will be more beneficial because it'll heal you and it'll help you out. But if you're more advanced and you're trying to do fast kills, you're going to want to use a Bando's Godsword to drain its defense. So you can either use a BGS or an SGS. Next, you have your Rune Pouch. Now, your Rune Pouch is a bit complicated. I'm going to close this quickly. Okay, so I did that. Your Rune Pouch needs to be filled with Blood Runes, Air Runes, and Death Runes or Souls. Basically, you're going to need 4 different kinds of runes for the Sire. So as you can see in my pouch, I have Souls, Bloods, and Deaths, and then in my inventory, I have Air Runes. You need to bring all the runes necessary so that you can cast Blood Barrage and Shadow spells. So, in your rune pouch, make sure you have 3 of those 4 kinds of runes, and then in the next slot, you can bring the rune that you don't have in your pouch. Then onto the potions, 4 stamina potions, 2 super combats, 2 sand fuse, 7 super restores, and then some sharks. Now, you can tweak this based on your level of experience. If you're just starting, you may need less restores and more food to begin with. But the more advanced you get, you honestly really don't need any food here other than for emergencies. But yeah, 4 stamina gives you pretty long trips. 2 super combats and 2 sand fuse, they work out pretty nicely because sand fuse, they not only restore your prayer like these guys, but they also serve as an anti-poison. So these are pretty important in my opinion. You need some sand fuse. And that's pretty much it, guys. I think that should be all you need to know about what to bring to Sire. One quick note on the Drayman Staff. If you have completed the Elite Lumbridge Diaries, you won't need this because you don't need a Drayman Staff to use the Fairy Rings, but assuming you haven't, make sure you bring one of these bad boys. So, using all the information that I just gave you, you should be completely and entirely ready to kill the Abyssal Sire. So go ahead and make your way to a Fairy Ring and use the code DIP. The code DIP will put you in the center area of the Abyssal Sire's dungeon. Just north of where you appear is the Font of Consumption, so if you do happen to get an Unsire drop, you can use it on here to get your reward. Now, as I said earlier, there are 4 different rooms you can go in. I always choose the northeast one for whatever reason, but pick whichever one you want. I would then drink a stamina potion to help you get there faster, and then just follow the path until you get there. And once you arrive in the middle of the room, go ahead and drink your super combat potion as well and turn on protect from range. Now the first thing you want to do here is actually don't use a shadow spell right away. Shoot him with your trident a couple of times and then you can use shadow spells. If you use a shadow spell right away, it won't actually do anything because these things have to wake up first. So, okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to shoot him once. I'm going to shoot him twice, and then I'm going to use Shadow Barrage, and if you get lucky, you can stun him right away on the first hit. As you can see, I'm not. Now, starting right away, he will start spawning these little poison things, so I highly recommend after every cast of Shadow Spell to just keep running around so you can dodge the poison, and then in the chat box, it'll say, your Shadow Spell disorients the Sire. As soon as you see that, you can start attacking the respiratory systems. If you move relatively quickly, you can kill 2 for every single time he is stunned. So I killed the one to the east. Now I killed the one to the west. I'm going to go ahead and come back to the middle and wait for the eyeballs to open on the tentacles. Once they are open, that means I can go ahead and try to stun him again. Again, remember, after every cast of it, just keep on moving around to avoid the poison. There you go. Just stunned him again. So now I'm going to come a little bit more south and take out these respiratory systems. One quick note while you were killing these things, you can turn on Mystic Might. I haven't found that Mystic Might really does much because generally you can take out all of them in 2 tries regardless. As you can see though, that time I didn't, so if you don't mind using a little extra prayer, you can throw on Mystic Might. And as you can see, this is going to be the last one right here. Now after this, phase 2 is going to begin. I got a little lucky, they didn't spawn anything, but on a normal kill, there would be some little spawns, and as soon as those pop up, you want to take care of them. But anyways, now that phase 2 is beginning, go ahead and put on your melee gear, turn on protect from melee, and piety. Now on this phase, you're going to want to start practicing the moving back and forth method. So what I mean by that is what you should do is poke him, then run 2 to the side, poke him again, run 2 to the side, and repeat that. Now, because during phase 2, he spawns the poison things pretty sporadically, you don't necessarily need to do this, but I would highly recommend it. It gives you a really good feel of the movement pattern you're going to have to use during the next phase. And once he gets below 200 health, you will be good to go to start the next phase. I usually use a God Sword at this part because you can basically do as much damage as possible past 200. So I try and use a God Sword hit to do extra damage, but as you can see now he has moved down to the south, move down here, turn on protect from range, and here's where you're going to want to really focus on your movement patterns. You need, okay, see I messed up there, and he teleported me, so once he teleports you, you need to run directly to the south, otherwise that explosion is going to mess you up. Now as you can see, there are tons of Scions running around, and you can use these things to your advantage. So what you should do is run around and use Blood Barrage on them. Remember to re-stamina potion whenever you can, and use Blood Barrage on these guys whenever you can to heal yourself up. Make sure you are very close to full health before he dies, otherwise you might end up having to use some food, which would just be wasteful because there's all this free healing just running around. So that's pretty much it, guys. I think I'm going to do a second kill because that kill was extremely fast. And I didn't really get to explain everything because I killed it fast, but there was one sample kill. I'll probably do another one, and I'll just throw some music over it if you would like to watch it, another example. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And again, I'm going to do one more kill and speed it up if you guys want to watch another example. So I didn't really get to do a last kill because it died so fast, but I want to slow this down and show you guys what I meant when I said you have to move back and forth between 2 spaces. If you move too far out of this range, the tentacles can hit you. So as you can see, what I do is I poke him and then I move 2 to the right. And see, I did it kind of wrong there. There's a good example. But if you poke it and move 2 to the right, poke it, move 2 to the left, and repeat that, you'll be good to go. I wanted to stress that because it's very important to not getting hit by the tentacles and dodging the poison things. I just couldn't stress it last kill because it died so fast. Well, there she is, guys. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and leave them down below. Abyssal Sire is a very easy boss. It takes a bit of time to learn, but once you get it down, it is a lot of fun. So if the guide helped you, feel free to hit that like button down below, and I will see you guys again soon with another video.